import prices on the rise. New data from the Bank of Korea shows import prices had the fastest monthly increase in more than 18 months. We break down what's driving this sharp jump. Kwon sentenced. A U.S. federal court has handed down a 15-year prison sentence to South Korean crypto entrepreneur Kwon, calling his actions, quote, a fraud on an epic generational scale. And South Korea and the United States held their latest Nuclear Consultative Group meeting in Washington, D.C. on Thursday for the first time in 11 months. Hello, and thank you for joining us on this noon edition of Arirang News. I'm Song Yu-jin, filling in for Peun-ji. We begin with the South Korea and the United States' 5th Nuclear Consultative Group meeting held in Washington, D.C. on Thursday, the first such meeting under the Lee Jae-myung administration and the first of President Donald Trump's second term. According to a joint press statement, South Korea emphasized that it will take a leading role in the conventional defense of the Korean Peninsula. Meanwhile, the U.S. reiterated its commitment to providing extended deterrence to Seoul, pledging to fully utilize its defense capabilities, including nuclear. The NCG, established in 2023, is a bilateral consultative body designed to coordinate nuclear and strategic planning in response to North Korea's advancing nuclear program. Now, meanwhile, back here at home, authorities in South Korea's southern city of Gwangju are racing against time to locate 2 missing workers following a collapse at a public library construction site the day before. Now, of the 4 workers initially trapped under the rubble, 2 were found but were later pronounced dead. President Lee Jae-myung has ordered all available resources to be mobilized for the rescue operation. Byun Ye-young has the latest.
Search and rescue efforts continued at the construction site of a new library in Gwangju City overnight. But officials say there is still no sign of the 2 workers trapped after a steel structure gave way while concrete was being poured on the building's roof. 4 workers were buried at the collapse that occurred around 2 p.m. on Thursday. 2 were recovered, but pronounced dead. Officials believe the initial failure on the rooftop triggered a chain reaction, causing the collapse. Experts point to faulty steel frame connections as a possible cause. Rescue teams are proceeding cautiously due to the risk of further collapse. Stabilization work is ongoing as debris is removed using heavy machinery, while thermal imaging cameras and other detection devices scan for signs of life. But as time passes and the concrete hardens, access is becoming increasingly difficult. President Lee Jae-myung has ordered relevant ministries to commit all available resources to the rescue.
행안부나 노동부나 등 관련 부처에서 인적 물적 자산을 최대한 동원해가지고 일단 구조에 총력을 다하기를 바랍니다.
The labor minister has been directed to travel to the site immediately, while senior safety officials canceled scheduled briefings to join response operations. Meanwhile, the 2 deceased workers have been moved to funeral homes where authorities are supporting bereaved families. Officials also said the search operation had reached a critical stage. Byun Ye-young, Arirang News.
On the economic front, import prices in South Korea rose at their fastest pace in 19 months in November. The country's central bank says the weaker Korean won played a central role in driving costs higher. Lee Seung-jae has the details.
Import prices in South Korea rose at their fastest pace in 19 months in November, even as global oil prices declined. New data from the Bank of Korea on Friday shows that the weaker Korean won played the central role in driving costs higher. According to the preliminary figures, the import price index climbed 2.6% on month in November. That is an acceleration from the 1.9% increase recorded in October, and marks the fastest monthly gain since April 2024, when the index jumped 3.8%. It's also the 5th straight month of rising import prices. On a year-on-year basis, the index increased 2.2%. The report points to a significant depreciation of the Korean won. The currency averaged 1,457.77 won per dollar in November, compared with 1,423.36 won in October. That weaker exchange rate raised the cost of bringing goods into the country, even though oil prices moved in the opposite direction. Dubai crude, which is South Korea's key benchmark, edged down 0.8% to $64.47 a barrel. Economists note that import prices are a critical part of the broader inflation picture. Higher import costs flow directly into production expenses and can eventually push up consumer prices across the supply chain. That dynamic is likely to influence the central bank's outlook as it monitors inflation and currency stability heading into the new year. The data also highlights movement on the export side of the economy. The export price index rose for a fifth consecutive month in November, up 3.7% from October. Although the pace slowed from the 4.1% increase seen in the previous month, the continued upward trend suggests that Korean exporters are feeling the effects of both currency shifts and recovering global demand. Analysts say the combination of rising import and export prices underscores the challenges and opportunities facing the Korean economy at a time of volatile currency markets and global uncertainty. The BOK is expected to watch these indicators closely as it shapes policy in the months ahead. 이승재, Arirang News.
On the international front, Mexico has approved a sweeping package of new tariffs that will affect hundreds of imported products, including those from South Korea and China. The Mexican Senate passed the measures on Wednesday after President Claudia Sheinbaum said the country needs stronger tools to boost domestic production. Now, the new levies will take effect on January 1st and will target items including metals, vehicles, clothing, and household appliances. Dozens of other countries without a free trade agreement with Mexico, including Thailand, India, and Indonesia, will also be hit. In the world of politics, President Lee Jae-myung has accepted the resignation of Oceans and Fisheries Minister Chuncheon. The presidential office issued a notice on the matter to reporters on Thursday afternoon. Chun had earlier announced in the day that he intended to step down following allegations that he received illegal payments from the Unification Church. Although he denied the accusations, Chun said he was offering to resign to avoid hindering the ministry's work or becoming a burden on President Lee Jae-myung's administration. Chun is the first minister to resign under the new administration. On the same day, President Lee Jae-myung began receiving policy briefings and progress reports from government ministries and public institutions. First on the schedule for Thursday was the Ministry of Economy and Finance. Our economics correspondent Park Jun-an has the wrap-up.
The economy was chosen by President Lee Jae-myung as his first topic to be briefed on in the first round of ministerial briefings started by his administration. But before going into the details, Lee opened the meeting by emphasizing the importance of public service above all.
정말 운명적으로 중요한 지점이잖아요. 지금 대한민국이 그런 분수령 또는 분기점에 서 있는 것 같습니다. 우리 공직자 여러분들의 이 나라의 미래도 달려있고 여러분 다음 세대들의 삶도 달려있다. 이렇게 생각하고 책임감을 가지고 열심히 해 주실 것으로 확실히 믿습니다.
Following President Lee's opening speech, the Ministry of Economy and Finance started the session, evaluating the government's economic achievements over the past 6 months and how the ministry would move forward to bring meaningful changes next year.
The administration has pushed forward key economic measures, including emergency response efforts, a swift supplementary budget, a new growth strategy, tariff agreements, tax system normalization, and the timely passage of the 2026 budget. As a result, growth reached a 15-quarter high, and the KOSPI surpassed 4,000 points, with broader signs of recovery across the economy.
However, the finance minister did mention some hardships lying ahead. For example, South Korea's economy faces multiple challenges, including a decline in potential growth rate, polarization, and latent risks in the foreign exchange and real estate markets. The government has announced it will proactively pursue key tasks, including making 2026 the first year of a major leap forward. Starting from Thursday, President Lee will also receive work reports covering 228 public institutions and related organizations, including 19 ministries, 5 agencies, 18 commissions, and 7 committees. 박준환, Arirang News.
Staying on the domestic front, as 2025 draws to a close, South Korea's Minister of Unification has outlined his plans to proactively pursue dialogue with North Korea in the coming year. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young reports.
South Korea will renew its push to reopen talks with North Korea next year, anticipating major regional shifts with the upcoming US-China summit. On Wednesday, Unification Minister Chung Dong-young held an off-camera conference with correspondents, setting the tone for his priorities next year, saying he will strive to turn 2026 into a base year for peace and coexistence. On promoting dialogue with Pyongyang, he pointed to a major diplomatic event, the April meeting between US President Donald Trump and his counterpart Xi Jinping in Beijing, noting that the two leaders could influence North Korea's strategic calculations and set the tone for regional engagement. Chung said Seoul must be ready if Pyongyang recalibrates its position and allows even a minimal opening for contact, particularly as North Korea enters a period of internal reassessment ahead of its 9th Party Congress, reflecting on economic direction and external partnerships. Minister Chung said the South must be proactive in the coming months, not wait for external momentum. According to Chung, this includes lowering confrontation, restoring basic trust, and signaling a clear policy direction based on peaceful coexistence, not the North subjugation. Chung said revising military posture and lowering confrontation are part of that. He pointed to past cases, noting that the suspension of team spirit in the early 1990s and the delay of South Korea-US combined exercises in 2018 contributed to diplomatic openings. He noted here that military drills are a means, not the purpose. On dealing with North Korea's nuclear program, Chung said the most urgent task is slowing further expansion. He listed 3 immediate priorities: stopping the Yeonbyung reactor, halting the increase in North Korea's warhead stockpile, and freezing uranium enrichment. However, the minister rejected arguments for stronger sanctions or pressure, saying North Korea's nuclear and missile advances have historically accelerated during periods of isolation. Seeking international cooperation on promoting peace on the peninsula, Chung added that Seoul is also widening its diplomatic network, including asking the European Union to consider appointing a special envoy for the Korean peninsula. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Now, on the cultural front, if you're interested in Buddhist art, there is an exhibition in Chuncheon City you might want to check out. Jin gives us a preview.
The journey of Buddha's enlightenment. A gentle resonance of a temple gong signals the beginning. There are 2 ritual water bottles from the unified Silla period which were excavated in Samcheok. They symbolize the washing away of suffering with pure water. As visitors walk along appreciating Buddhist ritual objects that purify the spirit, they are greeted by a Buddha who has attained enlightenment. This gilt bronze Buddha statue lay underground for over 1,000 years before being unearthed, and now sits to meet the world. In front of the halo that represents sacred light, the Buddha's serene smile draws attention. It is a 9th century Buddha statue that was excavated in 2015 at the site of the Sunrimwon Temple in Yangyang, and it took 5 full years just to restore it. A video showing the fully restored form of the statue has been recreated using AI technology and is also being screened in the exhibition hall. And this gilt bronze seated Buddha statue, excavated from Mount Kumgang in 1930, displays a compassionate and mystical presence amid its splendor.
Bodhisattvas are guides for followers so that they don't give up and continue on their path. To feel the mystical power of such bodhisattvas, their magnificent appearance is essential, and this statue reflects that very well.
Symbolizing the final part of the enlightenment journey is a seated statue with Buddha's chest open and legs firmly crossed, as it radiates unbroken tranquility. The hand gesture with the thumb and index finger touching represents the moment just before entering deep meditation, when the wisdom to see through all things is about to arise. It symbolizes the very fruition of enlightenment.
We hope that as you look at these works, you take time to reflect on the suffering you're facing in life and what must be realized. Ultimately, we hope you experience peace of mind, and emotional stability.
This special exhibition of Buddhist art that will take you on a journey to finding enlightenment opened at the Chuncheon National Museum on November 25th and will remain open until the end of 2028. 이은진, Arirang News.
This is The World Now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. In the United States on Thursday, Washington expanded sanctions on Venezuela, targeting 6 oil tankers, 6 shipping companies, and relatives of President Nicolas Maduro. The U.S. Treasury said the sanctioned vessels recently transported Venezuelan crude oil and accused them of deceptive shipping practices. The move follows the U.S. seizure of a sanctioned oil tanker off Venezuela's coast on Wednesday, the first such seizure since sanctions were imposed in 2019. U.S. officials say more tanker seizures are being planned. In Ukraine, President Vladimir Zelenskyy has said holding elections during wartime would require a ceasefire and firm security guarantees. Zelenskyy said on Thursday that voting would only be possible if fighting stopped for the duration of the election process, with security ensured by the United States and European partners. He was responding to renewed questions about elections, which have been suspended under martial law since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. Time magazine named the architects of AI as its 2025 Person of the Year on Thursday. Time said 2025 marked the year artificial intelligence moved from a niche technology into mainstream life. The cover highlights 8 people involved in designing and building AI systems, including executives from OpenAI, Google DeepMind, NVIDIA, Meta, Tesla, and AMD. Time said it chose the people behind the technology rather than AI itself for shaping global change this year. In the United States, a New York court on Thursday sentenced cryptocurrency entrepreneur Kwon to 15 years in prison. Kwon pleaded guilty to 2 fraud counts linked to the collapse of the Terra USD and Luna tokens, which saw investors lose more than $40 billion. He co-founded Terraform Labs, which filed for bankruptcy after Terra's failure in 2022. The judge said Kwon knowingly misled investors. Kwon said he accepted full responsibility. Chu Ji-han, Arirang News.
There was a sharp drop in temperature. Most regions had morning lows that were 5 to 10 degrees lower than yesterday. A cold wave advisory is in place for many western regions where temperatures have dropped more than 10 degrees Celsius since yesterday. Icy winds will make feels-like temperatures going a lot lower. Seoul gets up to 7 degrees, Daegu at 8 degrees, which is about 5 degrees lower than yesterday. More clouds will be rolling in this afternoon. And tomorrow brings another round of nationwide snow and rain. From late afternoon, heavy snow is expected again across central inland regions. Gangwon-do and mountains regions on Jeju Island could see more than 10 centimeters. The capital area might get 1 to 8 centimeters of somewhat heavy snowfall. And during the peak, snow could come down 3 centimeters per hour. So please plan ahead and stay safe through the weekend.
And that's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching, and Arirang News will be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.